There's so much scatter, there's so much noise, it's around us all the time. How in the world do you figure out what's important? That's the topic for today, Conversations. Let's go to the studio. With so much stuff. It's just this noise and that noise and this noise and that noise, and how in the world do you figure out what's important? That's what we're going to talk about today. And with me is Mr. Jesse Knowles. He brings a unique perspective, the one of the instructor. And with us today is Julia, and Julia is going to give us...
Shannon. We're going to go with Shannon today.
Oh, her name was Shannon today?
Shannon today.
Why did I think your name was Julia?
Someone
told me your name was Julia.
There's two other Julias running around.
Somebody said it, and I said, wait, I thought her name was... Wait, okay, anyway. This is Shannon, and Shannon's going to give us the perspective of a high school student, and the whole idea is trying to figure out what's important. So we're going to present you with a scenario.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
No, actually, I'm going to present both of you with a scenario. Now, here's the thing. We're going to try to dig a little bit, and we're going to try to figure out what's really important, because we can get distracted by a lot of different things. Okay?
Okay.
Here's the scenario. Your mom says to you, you can't wear that.
Okay.
When you're about to go out to hang with your friends.
Yeah.
She has some objection to what you're wearing. Okay? Now, what's your immediate reaction to that? You can't wear that.
I would get mad.
Yeah.
That would be my immediate reaction.
Yeah.
But thinking it over in my head, I would know that she was right. And I know that I should probably change, but I wouldn't want to. I would be stubborn. That's the kind of person I am. We'd probably butt heads for a little while, and then I'd probably lose the argument and have to do what she said.
Okay. All right, we're going to dig into. I will confess to you, when I was a teenager, the biggest arguments I got in with my parents were the ones where I knew I was wrong. Yes. So, la-di-da. All right, so now, what's important to your mom about what you're wearing? Why would she say you can't go out?
Well, first of all, I'm her little girl, and all parents don't like it when their kids grow up and become young adults or try to be more mature than they are. So that would probably be one of the things that she was worried about.
Has she said that to you? I don't want you to grow up?
Yes.
She has?
Multiple times. My sister just moved out of our house, and she told me that I'm never leaving.
Oh,
you don't
I guess
get to
I
leave.
can't leave anymore.
All right, now, Jesse, you have a teenage daughter.
Yes, I do.
Right? Okay, so what is your thinking when you say, or if you would ever say to her, you can't go out in that outfit?
Okay, so I'm going to back up just a little bit and give like what I think to be the overview of the problem.
Okay.
And that is, when kids start high school, typically they're dependent, highly dependent. Like much of their decision making, much of what happens in their life is controlled by their parents. And then by the time
Okay, now wait a minute.
to 4 years transpire.
Wait, let's a minute of clarity.
Okay, all right.
You said dependent, but do the kids, do the parents think they need to give them guidance, or do the children request the guidance? Because the word dependent is subjective.
Okay, so in both of those instances, yes. So in the kid needs the guidance, the kid actually thinks I need to do the right thing, and so what do my parents want to do? And so they're very interested in doing the things their parents want them to do.
You're nodding your head. Do you agree with that?
I do.
And then when they have the scenario where like, oh gosh, I don't know what's going on, I wonder what my parents like. So their parents are engaged in that decision-making process and their life and all the elements therein.
Okay.
Very. So they're dependent in that capacity.
Right.
And then by the time they're seniors, man, it's flipped. I would say like, if I were to just throw out some generals, like 10% of their decision-making when they're freshmen is their own, and then 90% of the decision-making is parent. And by the time they're seniors, I think that inverts.
We want that, right? As a parent, do we want that?
Her mother apparently not, but so in
because
that,
you are a junior or a senior?
I'm a junior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So in that time, there's this transition from dependence to independence.
Right.
And in that, so that's where the negotiation, that's where it becomes difficult for so many parents, because there's a transition and it's new territory for both parties.
Okay, now that we've laid the groundwork for that,
now in this,
but no, hold that thought,
all right, okay.
because we need to break away for this moment from our sponsors. Be right back. All right, we're on the precipice. We've laid some groundwork in terms of what's really important in a conversation between a parent and a child. We had the child who, in this particular case, has been told, you can't go outside in that outfit. The child happens to be female. And the parent is, from what we've understood with Mr. Knowles, is the whole idea of decision making and how there's an evolutionary process in the development of the child. But now, let me bring this to you. In this specific scenario, with whatever she's wearing, what's important? Why would you say, hypothetically, you can't go outside in that?
I would say that if, in my humble opinion, and I say humble opinion because I'm applying my generational filter to a different generation.
Right.
If in my generation, my perspective is that both in her own generation and in my generation, there's some level of indecency or inappropriateness. And so I have the maturity of understanding the implications of a young woman wearing something that is potentially not appropriate.
Pause button.
Okay.
So you just heard what he said about the two criteria, indecent or inappropriate.
Okay.
All right, those are two separate things. All right, what's your first reaction to that?
I think he's right.
Yes.
I think.
Are you like the magic child?
I think something else that my mom would say or think is she doesn't want other people to judge me or to think bad things of me because she knows I'm not an inappropriate or indecent person.
Okay,
and if people view me as that because of the clothes I wear, she doesn't want that false image of me in their head because she knows I'm a much better kid than that.
Okay, so why is that?
Yeah. She's helping you.
Why is that important, what other people think of you?
Well, you never know who you're going to run into later in life, if it's going to be someone who you're applying a job for, if they're the boss, or something like that.
So you would have never changed clothes? Like whatever's inappropriate for you to walk out the door today, 5 years from today when you go in for a job interview, you're going to be wearing the same thing?
No, but it's almost like your reputation. If someone thinks of you and they think of you as a young kid who's wearing an inappropriate outfit, and you see them in 10 or 15 years, they're still going to remember you by that because that was your reputation, that was your impression that you gave to them.
Even though what the impression you give at 15 years later is completely different, is what's happening as a teenager important?
Yeah. That's why your teenage years are so important, because you're developing who you are going to be
You're
later
talking about teenagers
in your life.
in society?
Yeah.
Just in general?
In general.
Yeah.
There's also something to be said for the clothing represents far more. Kind of like the music they listen to, the clothing they wear represents essentially also peer groups, right? So if she's dressing, if she's dressing in a particular way or listening to a particular set of music, that kind of defines also your peer group. So
or how you're raised.
Right.
So it might give a bad
represents
impression.
the parents as well. And so
well, okay, now as a parent, and we've only got about 2 minutes left, so as a parent, what's really important? Are you being judged fairly by the behavior of your child? Because we have seen horrible instances of death and mayhem carried out by a child. Is the parent at fault? You see what I mean? Is it fair to judge the parent by the behavior of the child?
Yes.
It is?
I think so.
Across the board, 100%?
I do.
Really? You don't just have a bad seed, some kid that is just off the rails, and no matter what you do, that kid is just not going to, there's something weird about Charlie.
That gets to a nature-nurture argument, and I'm very, very, very much a nurture. I'm in the nurture camp.
Okay.
And so, yes, well, there might be bad seeds, and you want to catch me outside because that's an example of a girl who's potentially, I think that's the responsibility of the parents, and so it's that double-edged sword of these children are representations of their parents, They really are. That's what also complicates that transition of independence or dependence to independence. And in the case of like my daughter wearing something that's inappropriate, there's two things that go through my mind. One is it inappropriate to her peer group only, or is it appropriate to all? So that's one of the assessments. And if it's appropriate to her peer group and inappropriate beyond that, then there's a little bit of self-expression. Like, what's the next? It's the self-expression. And so is the self-expression more important in this instance? So each and every scenario is very different.
All right, now we're getting down to the gritty. What's important, right? And we're going to wrap up this episode with the teaser that we're definitely going to come back and finish out this conversation in the next episode. But I want to kind of lay the grounds. Where we are right now is what seems to be important to both the adult and the child is the opinions of other people. We'll be back in the next episode. Thank you very much. This is Conversations. Bye-bye.